Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to my session of Afro-Descendants of South America. And this is going to be focused on Argentina, Bolivia, and Ecuador. This is also going to be how to incorporate Afro-Latino culture and race in your classroom because sometimes we just have a hard time starting up that conversation about race. So today you're going to at least have some pointers about how to do that. Hola, my name is Jennifer White, and I am a Spanish teacher at the Donahoe School, and I teach levels 1, 2, and 3. I am a native of the Dominican Republic, and I'm also the SCOLT Southern Teacher of the Year for 2021, and also a finalist for the ACFL Teacher of the Year. So I'm really excited about that. Here is a slide with all my family members. Just wanted to share with you the wonderful people that I live with and that I am around with, and some of them are my mom, my dad, my husband, my kids. They're all in this picture and in these pictures. So I hope you enjoy all those smiling faces. All right, so what would you get out of this session today? You're going to learn how to incorporate any of these three countries into your current lessons, which is like a roadmap on how you can introduce culture and Afro-Latino culture in any of your lessons, in any of the themes that you have. Also, some activity ideas. Learn the importance of incorporating Afro-Descendants in your classroom. How to start the race talk in your classroom, which is a tough one because sometimes it's really hard to have this conversation. Facts about the three countries of focus. So I hope that you get to learn a lot out of this presentation today. We're going to get started with the reason I picked South America is because there's some misconceptions going on about who is an Afro-Latino. Okay, now when we think about Afro-Latinos, many of the Latinos themselves think that only Dominicans are Black or Puerto Ricans are Black or Cubans. And the reason of this thought process is because of baseball players and the athletes that you see. When you see a baseball team, automatically anyone that speaks Spanish, you're like, oh yeah, they must be Dominican. And my husband, who is Panamanian, he's a dark-skinned Panamanian. Sometimes he's speaking Spanish, and a Hispanic that doesn't know that there are Afro-Latinos out there would say, oh, you must be Dominican. You know, that's just that little ignorance of some Latinos that don't know that there are Black people that speak Spanish that are not from the Caribbean. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because I haven't been able to talk about this yet. From all the presentations I've given, haven't been able to point that out. So this is a misconception. The majority of the Latinos in the United States are Mexicans or Puerto Ricans. And then we have Dominican Republic, we have Brazil, Nicaraguans. Actually, right here where it says when you think of Afro-Latinos, many Latinos think of Dominicans first, then Puerto Ricans, then maybe Cubans. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Salvadorans, Cubans, and Dominicans are the largest groups of Latinos in the United States mainland. So just to bring that up, because sometimes even in our classrooms, we can incorporate Afro-Latino culture in our classrooms, but easily students can gravitate to, oh yeah, Afro-Latinos are like Jarrell Jerome or like Rosario Dawson or like Amara La Negra or like Celia Cruz. All of these people are either Dominican, Puerto Rican, or Cuban. So we're going to keep on going here. Now, Afro-descendants from South America are the least talked about among Afro-Latinos. How do you introduce this information in your classroom? I am a great believer that introducing Afro-Latino culture is really important in your classroom, because if students only see maybe in their textbooks only, like, say, white colored students or white colored people that are speaking Spanish, some students either will not connect with the language, or some students for the rest of their lives, that's what they're going to think about. Like, for instance, I am a teacher who teaches majority white students. So if everything is white, hey, that's great. They see everything white. But then it's like if they don't get to learn that there's actually Spanish speakers that are black. So for instance, if they see my husband walk into my classroom, they'll be like, oh, he's African American. And I'll have to, no, remember I told you he's from Panama? And then it's like, oh, yeah. See, I want my kids to get to the point when they see a black person that they're not sure where that person is from. Just like a white person, too. If you see a white person, blonde hair, blue eyes, you have no clue if that person can speak Spanish, English, French, German, whatever. You want that broad frame of mind for students, that they will be able to look at someone and not assume that a person is from a certain culture. So this is the importance of bringing in South America, because South America anyway is the place where most of the African slaves were brought to Brazil, which today we're not going to talk about Brazil, but just wanted you to know that there are many millions of Afro-Latinos that speak Spanish and are many times invisible. So in order for you to start talking about Afro-Latinos and incorporating Afro-Latinos into your classroom, we gotta talk about race. We have to have that conversation, of course. And that conversation is important because you could talk about it in English class, history class, for sure. It's all good, you know. But when you get to Spanish class or a world language class, you can't get away from race. Race is part of language. Language and race, they just go together, okay? So I put some of these in Spanish because when you're explaining to students, you want to be able to explain in Spanish. But I wanted to show the importance of the different colors. I am a great believer to incorporate Afro-Latino culture, but also my classroom also incorporates the Asian Latinos and indigenous uh, Latin Americans, because how can I separate that? I just can't get away from that. I focus a lot on Afro-Latinos because those are the main ones that people don't see, but people also don't see the Asian Latinos. They see them and they're like, oh yeah, they're Latinos. Like I have a friend, his name is Peter. He's from Nicaragua. He looks Asian, or like we would say in the hood, straight up, straight up Asian. And he's not Asian at all. He's actually from Nicaragua, parents Nicaraguan, but he looks Asian. There's actually Asian people that moved to Latin America and started a life in the Latin America, such as Panama. You'll see places in Panama where there's a foundation of Panamanian Chinese that are there, and in the Dominican Republic, you know, I'll see a lot of Chinese Dominican. I mean, they have the complexion of a Chinese person, and then they start talking like this, and they pero bueno, and I'm like looking at them like, oh my goodness, like I shouldn't have that reaction. Well, I don't have it now, but the first time I saw it, I'm Dominican. I saw Dominican Chinese, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're you're Chinese, you're Dominican. What is it? I remember one time I was here in Alabama. I was in a university, and I passed by the ESL class. And the ESL class, from the outside, I saw a Asian person teaching the class, Asian woman. And the Asian woman was talking like this. And she's like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she is Panamanian. I don't know why I said that. It was the nose or something. I'm not good at this. Believe me, I don't have a gift. But since I'm married to a Panamanian, I'm very familiar with Panamanians. I could spot them. Just, I don't know what it is. But I saw her, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's Panamanian. So when she goes in the bathroom, and I happen to go to the same bathroom she went, I said, hey, are you Panamanian? Which, that's dangerous. You can't just go up to people and say, are you a certain, that's just bad. Because if you're wrong, you automatically offend the person. I didn't mean to do this. I was in my early 20s, shouldn't have done that. But she said, oh, see, yes, I'm Panamanian. I'm like, oh my gosh, a Chinese Panamanian. And as I got to know her, I got to find out that she's a Chinese Panamanian. She's not She's not Asian. She's not Chinese. She's not Panamanian. She's an Asian Panamanian, and she'll say that. And when she introduces herself to other Panamanians or other Hispanics, she'll say, "Yo soy panameña." She's Panamanian. So I want you to know that there are those distinctions, and I don't want to shy away from those other cultures. I focus on Afro Latinos, but I love also introducing my kids to any culture that is represented in my classroom itself. So if I have Asian in my classroom, I definitely include Asian Latinos. If I have Arabic, I incorporate the relationship of the Arabic culture to Spanish, the words and everything. So I would love for you to be able to do that too. So I have a picture of all these people here, different colors, beautiful women, different texture of color. And I would normally ask my students, ¿Qué es la raza? What is race? And what I would do is I would write on the board different words on the board. Or I would tell the students, what does it mean? And if they tell me in English, black, white, yellow. Okay, so I'll write that, black, white, yellow. If they were to say groups of people that are grouped by color, okay, write that down. You can make your own definition of what is race. And as I write it down, if they told me in English, because maybe it's in the beginning of the school year that I introduce something like this, and I wouldn't do it with like the lower level, like intro to Spanish or Spanish 1. If I start talking about race in Spanish 1, I'll talk about it later on when I have a relationship with them in probably the second semester. So I love talking about this with Spanish 2 and Spanish 3 levels and higher, of course. So as I write down on the board what they're saying, they say it in English, I translate it to Spanish so they know what I'm saying. And this is a definition that I found that I really like, that I've written on the board before, and you can use it if you want, or you can make up your own. It's fine. Really, it is fine as long as they understand. So I put here, cada uno de los cuatro grandes grupos. So anybody there that's not a Spanish teacher, I'm going to translate it. So every one of the 4 major ethnic groups is divided into this human species with certain characteristics and physical distinctions, maybe the color of your skin or your hair, or by generation or by heritage. So in this definition, it's saying that the 4 races, which I always thought it was 3, but in this definition, I said, yeah, definitely, it's including the indigenous. They call it the red. So they call it blanca, white, negra, black, amarilla, which is like Asian, and cobriza, which signifies like red, which I understand that it's indigenous group. So if I can tell and explain this in Spanish, which is easy because if you're saying it by the colors, it's fine. And of course, we're mixed with it. Like I'm mixed with so much stuff. No, I'm not really. I wish I was mixed with Asian. All my life, my dad told me that I was una chinita. And Dominicans, bless their heart, but everybody that's Asian is Chino. Okay, they don't say, oh, Japanese, Vietnamese. No, they don't. They say Chino. So I grew up thinking that I was China because I looked like a little Asian, and my parents were black, and everybody thought I was adopted. It was just ridiculous. But anyway, I grew up, and I always thought, man, I'm so different. I don't look nothing like my sister. I don't look nothing like my parents. And I was really light skinned when my hair was super straight. My mom couldn't even make a ponytail. So when I grew up last year, actually, I got one of those tests, those DNA tests, and found out that I have nothing Asian in me. I was so devastated. My children were devastated. We're like, Mom, now we're gonna have to marry Asians. It's just because all their life they thought, oh, we're mixed with black, white, and Asian. They were just so excited about being mixed with all that. But now they said, we're gonna have to marry somebody, that's ridiculous. Not to offend anybody. We just love cultures. I just love culture. When I got married, I had every culture represented in my wedding. It's ridiculous, I know, but just love it. So always start off in your classroom with, what is race? Let's talk about it. What do you mean? If you're a white teacher and you have majority black students, the same way. You could say, hey, what does race mean? And they might go into racism. They might go into something else because kids might feel uncomfortable talking about it. But you're going to have to just tell them, hey guys, this is part of the world. This is part of life. And as we learn Spanish, you're going to see all these different people speaking Spanish. I want you not to discriminate against the colors of their skin or their hair. Because some people have straight hair, blonde, blue eyes, very light-skinned people, and they consider themselves Afro-Latinos. And then Afro-Latinos, some will look at them and say, oh no, you're not Afro-Latino. Stop trying to claim us now. You know, this thing like the J-Lo thing, which J-Lo's now saying she's black. But the thing is that you don't know if that person's mother is black. You know, you don't know if that person is a mixed race student or child. And we just need to be careful, to be quick to judge, quick to give our opinions about things that we really don't know, because we don't know everything. We know that. Okay, so currently, talking about Asians, there are currently more than 4 million Asian Latin Americans, nearly 1% of Latin America's population. Lebanese, Chinese, and the Japanese are the largest Asian ancestries. Other major ethnic groups include Indians, Koreans, and Filipinos. So in the terms of demographics of South America, it shows a mixture of Africans, English is my second language, so Amerindians, Europeans, and Anusim or Moranos, and to a lesser extent Arabs, Romanos, and East Indian Asians. A mixture of Amerindian and European ancestry is often referred to as mestizo or caboclo or mameluco. So all of these people, Latin Americans, are a melting pot of a lot of things, but many of them choose to go one route. They say, okay, I'm white, I'm Europe. They don't say I'm white. They say, I'm European, soy europeo, soy de España. You know, they say that. And I found out that I'm only 17% white. And then that 17% white that I am, European, it's like Spain and then like Irish. No wonder I love those river dances. No wonder. There's a reason why I love that dance. But anyway, this is really important to even know where you come from as a teacher. Where do you come from? What is your foundation, your background? It's always good to share with students where are you from? How many countries are you made up of? Where are your parents from? If you're going to be asking these difficult questions and you're going to be sharing with students, you have to have something in you that is kind of transparent. You don't care if they know. Now, if you have a problem with that or you don't know, then it's better that either you wait or you have somebody else introduce that subject for you. Okay, so if you're introducing Afro-Descendants from South America because you want to emphasize that this group is not given enough attention or is not spoken about often, then talk about it like this. And this is my dialogue here that I wrote. It looks messy, but I do have notes, and if anybody wants my notes, I will gladly share them, okay? So I will say, hola clase, and then with a map close by, I would say, ¿Dónde está Sudamérica? ¿Dónde está? And this is how I would start that, that conversation about South Americans and Afro-Latinos, South America. So after they point it out, or if they don't know where South America is, then you could show them where it is. So I would say, en Sudamérica viven muchas personas. And then you could say América del Sur or Sudamérica, it doesn't matter. My kids know I interchange, so they know both of them. Personas ricas y personas pobres. And then you could go with the CI. ¿Qué son personas ricas? Las personas ricas tienen poco dinero o mucho dinero. You could go into the CI talk and do that circling if you'd like. Or you can just continue. If they're advanced enough, you could continue. Or you can elaborate on how they should understand these words. En los Estados Unidos también hay personas pobres y personas ricas. So this is how I'm telling them, okay, like rich and poor is out there, which this is, I'm not going to talk about this yet, but later on you could bring up how there's a class system in Latin America, that sometimes the poor are just treated really horrible and the rich are treated wonderful because of the class system. ¿Qué razas están en los Estados Unidos? And that's when I start writing about race. What races do you have in the US? Okay, white, black, Asian, that's what they normally say. ¿Qué razas hay en Sudamérica? Like, guess what races are in South America? And it's a trick question because they won't know what to say. They'll probably say white, but then my students, being white, are shy to say something to offend. I have to constantly give them my speech. Hey guys, you're not gonna offend me, so go ahead and say whatever you want, and it's not gonna leave the room. It's between you and I. And that has helped me a lot because before my students did not want to say anything. So I'll give you an example about that later. So they might be polite. They might say the three races. So I'll agree. See, there are three races, and then I'll tell them about the previous slide that we talked about all the races that are in South America, or how the ethnicity and the groups that represent South America. Sí, en Sudamérica hay de estas razas también. And then you could write down on the board, have it on the slide with photos. You can have pictures of people. Like I would have a picture of this beautiful lady right here. This beautiful lady is Miss Earth 2018, and she happens to be from Ecuador. So sometimes I'll say, so what country do you think she's from in South America? I don't even want them to think the United States. En Sudamérica, ¿de dónde esta chica? ¿De dónde es? En Sudamérica. And then you could do the CI thing. I would say, ella es de Panamá. Ella es de Puerto Rico. And I'll say all the Caribbean islands first. And then I'll say countries that don't even have anything to do with Latin America, like ella es de Alemania, ella es francesa. So then I, go down to, oh, ella es de Ecuador, and it would have this same picture where it says Miss Earth, Ecuador, really small, so if they say it, that was awesome. But then I would say, pero en términos de raza, la demografía de América del Sur muestra una mezcla de africanos, amerindios, europeos, and this is when I say the groups that are in there that are represented. And when focusing about Afro-Latinos, go this route, okay, if you can. If it's going to make you feel better, not to come out and say, hey, what's black and white? Hey, what's racism? We always have to come in subtly and with love. I always think love saves the day. So always come and say things that you love about certain groups of people. All right, so I would ask, hoy vamos a hablar sobre los afrodescendientes de Sudamérica. ¿Sabías que hay afrodescendencia en Sudamérica? And some of them will be like, yeah, you told us last year. Sí, or they'll be like, no, I never seen one. Well, yeah, you've seen Juliet Gonzalez Rojas. Here it is. And I'll have maybe more pictures. And you can find lots of pictures on Google and with Afro-descendants from different countries in South America, in South America. So I would have pictures and I'll say, hey, look, she's from Ecuador. She's from Brazil. She's from, and I would tell them that so that they know that there is a group of people that do represent Afro-descendants in South America. Now, the example I wanted to show you was that I wanted to tell you about students and opening up to you and telling you the truth about things, because it's kind of hard. They get picked on, after they say a certain comment. Sometimes I tell them, hey, if you want to tell me something in private, you're welcome to come and tell me in private. So two things happened to me. After George Floyd, the accident with George Floyd, I gave my students a speech and I said, hey, everyone, I want you to know that if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me about what's going on in the country. It's something that we can't ignore. It's out there. And in my class, in my school in particular, it's it's ignored because it's not their reality, but it's my reality. And I would tell them how I feel. And I said, well, my son, he's black, even though he's really yellow, but he has that haircut, that curly hair. And when he gets stopped and he tells me that he's stopped by a cop, I get a little afraid. So I kind of understand. My husband too, he gets stopped for no reason, and I'll tell him some stories about that. If you're not black and you never experienced this, you could talk about other people's stories and how you empathize with them, and that how you feel how that is not right, how we feel this way, that we feel afraid. And I said, if anybody wants to talk to me about this, please tell me. And what I do is before I give this talk, I tell the counselor I'm going to give that talk, because I just don't want to get in trouble. I just don't. want to be that person. Especially if I was the only faculty of color at the time, so I didn't want to be like, oh, you just do whatever you want. You know, I don't want that attitude. I just want to be respectful and say, look, I can speak to my students about it. I'm not trying to open myself up to the whole school, just to my students who I teach Spanish to, who we talk about race to, so it's irrelevant. And to my surprise, I had a student that came up to me and asked me some very hard questions. He said, why do Black Lives Matter? You know, they don't matter to each other. I don't understand why they don't matter, why they matter. And, you know, I had to go into this conversation with the student, and I didn't say, oh my gosh, what is your problem? I did not do that. I was very loving. Love, love. So I explained to them, like, oh, you know, hey, can I ever be a white woman? And he says, no. I said, do I look like a white woman? No, my last name's White. Can I just go by being a white woman? No. I said, can I ever feel what a white woman feels like? And he said, no. I said, well, then, sweetie pie. I call everybody sweetie pie. And I say, then you won't know what it feels like to be in an African American family or in an Afro Latino family or person of color that gets discriminated against or have that fear, or you just won't know. What if George Floyd was your uncle? How would you feel? And he had to think. He's like, oh, I think I would be a little upset. Then I said, how about if George Floyd was your dad? And when I said that, then that's when he kind of like had to think about it a little and say, well, I guess it doesn't matter if he had drugs in his system, because he was defending other people saying that it's okay he died like that because he deserved it. He had to change his mind and say, oh, wow, you know, I guess it didn't matter if he had drugs in his system. If a cop did that, I would be upset. So that's how I changed that student's mind. I don't know if that works for everybody. I thank God I had wisdom at the moment to not freak out and be able to be calm about it, but I did set myself up for that. So if you're not ready to do that, it is okay. It is quite all right. I also wanted to give you another example about a student that my Spanish 3 class, that's the last level before I go on, and I had to record my Teacher of the Year video. My topic was aesthetics and beauty. So I put a picture of a black kid with blue eyes and blonde hair, and they're from the Solomon Islands. I love incorporating all kinds of culture in my class. So I put that picture up there on the wall, and I said, clase, este niño es bello. Este niño tiene una belleza, pero como ninguna otra belleza. And then I explained, this kid is beautiful, and these are the most beautiful people I think in the world. To me, my opinion, this is beauty. Just a mixture of everything. So I asked the students, do you think this is beautiful? Raise your hand, and this is on video. Okay, you could find this actually on YouTube on my actual Teacher of the Year video, my 20-minute video. And one girl said, no, it's feo. And I'm like, ¿qué? And inside myself, I was like, yes. Yeah, you would think I would get offended because she's calling the thing I call beautiful, the person I call beautiful, she's calling him ugly. But actually, I was so happy that finally Spanish 3 grew to the point, at least this student was able to tell me the truth and tell me, no, that kid is ugly. I don't care if you think it's a pretty kid. That kid is ugly. And I said, ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué es feo? And I'm all excited in this video, just asking, why do you think it's ugly? And she's like, I'm confused. Like, too much going on. To her, blonde hair, blue eyes, dark skin just doesn't go together. And I understand. I get it. We don't see that here in Alabama. We don't see nobody like the Solomon Island beautiful people in Alabama. So I get it. I did not judge or anything, but I was so excited to get that moment of truth from one of my students that I taught for 3 years. Well, I taught her for 4 years. So, you know, I don't get that from all my students. I've only had that really for about 5 students total that can come and tell me the truth about things, but I'm still aiming for the truth, the honesty. So I don't have enough time to tell you everything I want to tell you today, but I'm going to try. All right, so let's start with Argentina. Argentina is the largest Spanish-speaking country. And then I wrote it in Spanish so that in case I just like writing it in Spanish so that I could remember that I'm going to say it in Spanish. So because Argentina is the largest Spanish-speaking country, there are Afro-Latinos there. Now, there's myths out there about Argentina, and you can find on YouTube. I do have resources. When I share my resources, I'll show you all the videos of Argentina and how they're saying that they were wiped out, that the Afro-Latinos were wiped out. But if you're just focusing on Argentina because it's part of your unit and you have to focus on Argentina, then I suggest you give fun facts, interesting facts about Argentina, Bolivia, Ecuador. I noticed on YouTube, which I'm trying to aim to make some videos that are a little different, but on YouTube you find Argentina, 10 fun facts about Argentina. It's the best country in the world. It's this and that. And then I'm like, wow, there's nothing here about Afro-Latinos. So I'm working on that. I'm working on making some videos that have to do with the fun facts about Argentina, but including the Afro-Latinos. So I'm giving you this idea as an introduction for your students. Talk about the fun facts. Remember, the Afro-Latinos is not just for Black history. It's all year round. So if you introduce Argentina in December, it's okay. It's okay to say, oh, los Afro-Latinos, this and this. You could say these things. So, Argentina, I have a Che right here because a Che, he's not Afro-Latino, but I'm going to talk about him anyway because I don't want you to think that I'm all about only Afro-Latinos, okay? So, and I have this picture of different people. They're all light-skinned folks, and this is the norm that is shown everywhere, but that's okay. You can still show these images. It's okay. You don't have to always show the diversity of everything. It's good to know both, okay? So Argentina is the 8th largest country in the world, and this is how I'm introducing my class. I'm saying Argentina is the largest speaking Spanish country. It's the 8th largest country in the world. They see an image of a Che. You could start talking about a Che, how he's related to Cuba and how he helped with that, with the revolution. That's if you want to, it's fine. I'm just giving you options. Then I will go ahead and I would introduce facts about the Afro-Latino culture in Argentina. So I would say stuff like historical records indicate that Africans landed in the Rio de Plata region of Argentina to work in plantations and as domestic servants. They then spread to other parts of the country between 18th and 19th century. And here I have images of Afro-Latinos. This is actually a hero in Argentina, and I have information about her on my notes if you want her. She was in the army. She died. She took a bullet for the country. And down here we have Afro-Argentinos as well. So when you're talking about fun facts about Argentina, just don't forget about the Afro-Latinos because they're important. You can also insert there how many Asians are there, how many indigenous, and other great and crazy facts that you find on YouTube. Also, el tango. Tango to me used to be so European. I never knew that tango had to do with Africa in any way. But check this out. This is an awesome fun fact. The tango originated from Afro-Argentine roots. So even more than has previously been acknowledged, the origins of tango are Black via Congo culture imported from Central Africa and Cuba. Yes! Tango, the fabulous dance of the past 100 years, started life as Creole, the Congo grind, caught in the waltz-like embrace. Sorry, I think about music and I want to dance. Goodness, I love music so much. Anyway, I know it's COVID. It's hard to do the tango in your classroom, but you can show a video of tango and how beautiful it is. And I really admire one predominantly African American school here in Alabama that the Spanish teacher does celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month, and she invites a tango group from Atlanta, which Atlanta is like an hour and a half from us, so it's not that bad. But she pays big money for them to get to Alabama to do a tango, to show culture to the students. The only thing that it's missing, it's a predominantly African American school now. She brings the tango stars in there, but there's never a connection, there's never a connection of, hey guys, tango originated from Africa. They don't know that. So automatically African American students are looking at this tango like, wow, cool. Like, I don't care about that. they just, I see the audience and I see the, just uninterested students, which is not good. I'm not in charge of that. I can't. Some people I can give them suggestions. Some people I can. There's one person I couldn't give a suggestion to, but my suggestion would have been, hey, if you're gonna bring a tango star in here, you might as well give the history of tango for African Americans to connect with the language and the culture. Let's move on to Bolivia. Bolivia is barely talked about. I'm telling you. I don't know about you, but in my classroom, I gotta remember, okay, talk about Bolivia, talk about these countries in South America because I just touch upon them a little bit. And since I'm Dominican, hey, my kids know about Dominican Republic. But it's because that's where I'm from and the Caribbean. They know so much about the Caribbean because that's where I grew up and that's what I love. My passion is there. But I also have to know that if my passion is for Spanish, I need to show all of Spanish. I need to show the beauty of all of Spanish. And all of Spanish includes Afro-Latinos from Bolivia. So here I go again. I'm going to go ahead and give them fun facts about Bolivia. There are 25,000 Afro-Bolivians. Whoa, that's not a lot. But still, they're out there. They sure are. This is a really fun fact that my kids freak out because I bring a guinea pig to class every time the midterm is approaching and they're stressed out. I bring my guinea pigs and they pet them and they hold them in class and they just, feel the heartbeat of the guinea pig. Honestly, the guinea pig lowers my blood pressure when I get really mad. I hold the guinea pig close to me and I could just, just relax. And I wanted that experience for my students. I brought it. But, oh my gosh, this is crazy. For some people, the guinea pig cuy is a traditional dish in Bolivia. So the one here in the middle, it's the one in the middle that has like an egg with it and un repollo with the I don't remember how to say repollo. It has quinoa in it. That's the dish of the cuy. I didn't want to show the students a dish of the shape of the cuy. I let them research that on their own, but I don't want to freak them out that bad. I want them to go to Bolivia and enjoy the culture and not worry about, oh my gosh, they eat guinea pig. No, they need to know that all over the world, people eat all kinds of things and it's okay. They're not dying. They're sustaining themselves. And it's a good source of protein. All the other dishes here are different types of dishes from Bolivia. They're not necessarily the guinea pig, but it's just a good topic to talk about. Okay, cool fact about Bolivia. Here we go. It has 4,000 square miles of a salt flat. Salar de Uyuni. And it's the size of Jamaica. And things like this you can do CI with this, do the circling. That's what I do. I'm always saying, and I put this up there and I say el tamaño de Jamaica. And I said, Bolivia tiene 4,000 millas cuadradas de un salar de Uyuni. Este lugar está hecho de azúcar, muy dulce. And then they'll be like, azúcar. Yum, azúcar. And I'll have like a lollipop or something. I always have candy in my class. Azúcar. No. And then they'll say sal. I was like, sí, de sal, mucha sal. And then I'll compare Jamaica to Brazil, and I'll tell them, and I'll just go around like that, see, it's so fun when you're doing the circling. But these are other pictures of, Bolivia, just introducing Bolivia along with the Afro-Latinos. This is how you incorporate the Afro-Latino culture with your fun facts about a country without having to focus on the Afro-Latinos. Like, you're not focusing on it. It's just a random time. You're just talking about something, any theme you want to talk about, and you're introducing the Afro-Latinos along with the other facts that country has. Wipala, I found this very interesting. Wipala is a flag. It's a colorful flag that represents indigenous people. I want to incorporate indigenous people in my classroom, so I show them this. Wow, they go around carrying that, telling everybody, hey, I'm indigenous and I'm proud. And I just love this, how they walk around with that. And I remember going to Hawaii this past summer and I saw the Hawaiian flag and I said, that's the Hawaiian flag, the state of Hawaii. But next to it is the original flag. And the native Hawaiians, they carry that with honor and pride. And it's so good that if we're teachers, we should show that the indigenous people, they have their honor and pride in their flag. Wipala. Isn't that a beautiful flag? Okay, this blew me away. Okay, and I know it's gonna blow away your students. The Afro-Bolivian community has its own king right now. His name is Julio Pinedo. That's him. Say hey, Julio. September 23rd is Afro-Bolivian month, and if there was a day in Argentina that they had a day, I would write it down. Bolivia, I would write it down. So when that day comes, I would randomly say, hey, today is the Afro-Bolivian Day, or today is Women Day in Bolivia. Today is Indigenous Day. I try to write down these dates because I work at a predominantly white school. I don't want my students to think, oh, she talks about black folks. Oh, she's all about Afro-Latinos. She's all trying to bring it down our throats. That's not what I'm trying to do. I really am trying to show the diversity of a country, the diversity of our language that we teach, all of the different aspects of it. So if I want to do this, I got to make sure I include other countries and other things in the country that it has. And this is the coat of arms that the Afro-Bolivians use. Really nice, really interesting facts about Bolivia. So now we're going to move into Ecuador. Ecuador is a country I actually got to visit. If you get to visit any country in Latin America, make a big deal about it. Share it with your students. Share, share, share. You got to share, because sharing with your students is something that they realize that you're human just like them. Because when I was a kid, I thought teachers weren't human. I thought they were like just special. They were just this phenomenal people that know everything. And if you see them in the street, it will be like, oh my gosh, you saw a teacher in the street. I've never seen any of my teachers in the street. But I grew up in Miami, so in New York, so you would never do that because there's so that place was so big. But here in Alabama, you see teachers at Walmart, at Target, and you see your students. They run into you. So I always have to have my hair combed because students run into me. Can't wear my tight pants everywhere because students are gonna run into me. So it's like one of those things that as a teacher, share your life with them, because they would like that. We're always asking personal questions. So it's good that if you give personal things about you. My students, the best thing they like about my Spanish class, they say, is my stories, because I have some crazy stories growing up. Anyway, so 2 million Afro-descendants in Ecuador from Esmeralda, Valle de Chota, Quito, and Guayaquil. Now, this is an interesting story. Ecuador is, I like also doing this as you teach CI. If you don't, it's okay. But I like telling the story very seriously about Ecuador, and the Afro-Ecuadorians say, okay, they landed on this ship, it's called this, they landed in 1852 in this year, and it was the island of Esmeraldas, and when they got there, they were shipwrecked, and the storm was there, I exaggerate, oh, there's a storm, and then they come out, and then they're free, and then they run away from the slavers, and they spread out, and they just started their own colony, and they're free. Well, I would like them to write a story. So we would write a story together on the board. Let's write the story of how the Afro-Ecuadorians got to Ecuador. How did they get there? And then we would say, oh, a shipwreck. Oh, they were loosed from their chains, and they ran as fast as they can, and they established their community in Esmeralda. So, and then I also like them to use their imagination. What else do you think they did? Do you think anybody got in trouble for? Did anyone get caught? Do you think anyone got killed? I mean, there were slavers on that ship, but how many slavers compared to how many slaves can they get away? And we would have these conversations. So I would also make it like an adventure, because one teacher asked me one time. She said, Jennifer, how do we talk about the Black history when it's always sad? It's always about slavery. It's like, I'm just so sick of it. And I'm like, hey, listen, no, I don't approach slavery as a thing of doom and gloom, which it is doom and gloom. I tell them it is doom and gloom, but I always say, oh my gosh, let's imagine. Let's sit. Like, what I do is I have the kids sit. You know how you have those square footage of tiles on the floor? Some of you have it. I make them sit in a tile, And I said, okay, pretend you're in that tile. Make sure your whole body is on that tile. You can't have no part of your body thinking, I can't help it, my dress. I can't help it. Well, just try to keep your body. I said, that's how they felt when they were on the ship, on the slave ship. They were that tight. They couldn't stretch their legs. That was horrible. But what things can they do? Wow. These people were captured, but these were real people with talents and wonderful gifts and intellect. Those people that were captured and taken as slaves, they could dive down and take coral from the side of the ocean and build a massive Ephesus for Veracruz in Mexico, and I just make the people that were enslaved, I make them to be these wonderful people that they were captured. It's not that they're slaves, they're enslaved, and I apologize for saying that. They're enslaved, but they're not. That's not what they are. They're humans. They were taken from their land, but they had gifts and talents. And they're amazing people. The way they did the hair, how they did those cornrows, and they were maps. Who would have thought of that? Who would have thought of that? Never thought of making my hair into some map to get to Atlanta. There's no way. It would be I-20 straight ahead. I'll have one cornrow down my head. But anyway, just always think that whatever is horrible, there's a loving way of introducing it. That's how I say. Always a loving way. You're passionate about Spanish, you love teaching Spanish, you love teaching your language, find the wonderful things about it, even if they're horrible. Any good came out of that? No, probably not. Any bad came out? Yeah, okay, talk about the bad, but always talk about the good. Find that silver lining in everything. Okay, so Quito is the highest capital city in the world. This is just a random fun fact. I've been there on that third photo on the right. I've been there and it's so funny to be smack in the middle of the world. Be like, I was in the middle of the world. I took a picture on the line like this. I put my head like this. And it was amazing to be there. Quito was beautiful and it was so clean. That city was just like Madrid. So clean. Oh my goodness. I've never seen a city so clean, compared to the United States. Just so clean. Loved Quito. Loved being there. When I arrived there as a missionary with a medical team, and then I was an interpreter for this medical team. And the week before, they had killed a lot of missionaries. So when we went there, we were trying not to think about that because the area we were going, yeah. So, but it's okay. I like being a missionary. I like traveling, and I like to be able to see people um, in their worst, and then you make them feel better by bringing the medicine and bringing hope. Okay, so here we go. We're still talking about um, Ecuador, and this is how they arrived to the Esmeraldas province, where they established a free community. So this is here on the right is what Esmeraldas looks like now. Look how many people in that beach. They just spread out. It's COVID, but it probably wasn't during COVID. But I wanted you to see what Esmeraldas looked like and how important this event happened. What it was 1533, 23 enslaved Africans managed to escape a Spanish slave ship that capsized on the Pacific coast. The group settled in the Esmeraldas province where they established a free community. When I tell them that there is a ship that capsized, I also ask my students, what if a ship would have capsized in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Where would these people go? And they would say, they have to say in Spanish, they died. They probably died. Probably the sharks and it's really sad things to talk about, but I bring that up. I also like having moments in my students' classroom time where they feel compassion. And if a student cries because they were moved by compassion, I feel like, wow, that's so awesome. They did that. But anyway, so this was a presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, if you want any more ideas, you are welcome to ask me. This is the way you can contact me if you want my resources and everything I use to learn about this presentation, I have it all written down on my notes. All my YouTube videos that go with this are in there. Please connect with me. I have a group called Incorporating Afro-Latino Culture in Spanish Classroom. Please join that group. We're up to over 3,000 members now. It's been around for about 3 years, and I'm really excited about that group because that group was what got me started with all of this, with talking about Afro-Latinos. It was a subject that wasn't talked about. I started that group and it started growing, and I was able to start presenting at ACFL and in different organizations about Afro-Latinos, and we realized as Spanish teachers that we don't know enough about this topic, which is fascinating. So if you have any questions, please, please, please don't hesitate to contact me. Afro-Latina Teacher on Facebook, Afro-Latina Teacher at gmail.com, or my Facebook group. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope to hear from you soon. Adios!